And joining us in the studio for more is Michael Kleiner, president of the Likud Party Supreme Court and former parliament member for Likud, and Jeremy Saltan, the director of English operations for Naftali Bennett's Yamina party. And Michael, let's start with you. You heard Ellie's layout there. She projected two possible governments, one with Bennett leading, one with Lapid. She didn't put in Benjamin Netanyahu there because the odds are looking tough for him. Do you agree with that assessment, that at this stage, Bennett and Lapid are more likely to have an opportunity than Netanyahu?
No, I don't. I believe that the biggest chance, if there's not a new election, are for Benjamin Netanyahu, at the end of the day, to form a government.
As Prime Minister.
As Prime Minister. And the only other possibility is Naftali Bennett. And if there is a third, very slight possibility, which is almost unreasonable, is not Yair Lapid, but if the 61 members, excluding the Likud coalition and Yamina, will form a government because, for example, Bennett will not be ready to be supported by the United Arab list or by the joint Arab list, by Hadash. If there is a 61 government that has any chance, it will be headed by Gideon Sa'ar and not by Yair Lapid.
Okay. Jeremy, the good news is that Michael didn't totally discount a government headed by Naftali Bennett being formed. Maybe less of a chance than Netanyahu, but he didn't discount it. But as Ellie made clear, it would involve Naftali Bennett having to go back on some of his positions unless some of the other parties, for example, the religious parties, reversed their views. But is the scenario that Ellie painted a realistic one? Outside support from the Arab parties and a government headed by Naftali Bennett?
I don't see any sort of scenario where either on one hand we have a government led by Netanyahu that has support from the United Arab List of Mansour Abbas and Smotrich and Ben-Gvir, on the other side with Lapid, Gideon Sa'ar, and us, together with Balad and the rest of the joint list parties. If you're looking at an alternative government, there are various people who can go ahead and potentially run that government. But that would, of course, if you're looking at us, that would have to look at the Zionist parties. Now, one of the things that Naftali Bennett was able to do throughout this election process is say that he is the only person who can reach both into the Netanyahu bloc and into the anti-Netanyahu bloc to put together a stable coalition. I believe that's the type of coalition that we need to see today. Of course, there are many options. We have a week until we get to those recommendations in the president's office. Now, a lot can happen in Israeli politics over the next week. But I think we need to get out of this paradigm of it either being Netanyahu or Lapid, because, again, there is no 61 that we can see that is foreseeable that has Ben-Gvir along with Mansour Abbas, or on the other side, Gideon Sa'ar together with the Balad party.
But Jeremy, we are out of that paradigm. People are, including Michael, saying
Correct.
Bennett is a possibility. And he did say that in his government he would only take Zionist parties. But what about outside support, an agreement on issues that would assist the Israeli Arab community on issues like violence, but they would not actually sit in the government? Is that a feasible?
Look, Amit Segal, for instance, said you could foreseeably see Bennett together with the UTJ, Shas, ultra-Orthodox parties, Smotrich, Sa'ar, Gantz, and Lapid is one scenario. Ariel Kahana, another journalist who's on this station a lot, went ahead and he also created a different one that includes the Labor
Correct.
Party. If you're trying to have the Arab parties together with Bennett, that seems like a much more difficult reach than some of the other scenarios we've heard proposed by other people that involve Naftali Bennett. Of course, and no one here wants to see more than myself Naftali Bennett as prime minister. There are other potential candidates. There are other ways this can go. But what is certain, it's not going to be Netanyahu. It's not going to be Lapid. Neither of them have the numbers, and Bennett is the only one that can reach from both camps.
Jeremy, I want to go to Michael because he's supposing, or he's making a supposition that perhaps the ultra-Orthodox parties of Shas and United Torah Judaism would abandon their pledge for Netanyahu and support Bennett. Do you see that as a likelihood?
It's very unlikely. They have to sit together with Meretz and Lieberman and Yair Lapid. It is very, 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 very difficult. It doesn't add up. The only possibility is that the president next week will ask people about Netanyahu and Lapid, and we'll see both have a very strong opposition, which is a majority, and the only one that people will say our second choice is Bennett, and he can come to a conclusion that Bennett has a better chance than each of them, if nothing changes until then, to form a government, and to ask him to form a government, and then he may try. But you know, and it will be easier if you left 22 people recommend him than 7. Because one of the problems that he is only a party of 7 members, and the public find it some parts of it at least hard to swallow. And Rabbi Druckmann, who is a big leader, a rabbinic leader of all the bloc of the religious Zionism, said Netanyahu was elected by the public. He got 5 times more votes than any other candidate. And I calculated he got less than 5 times votes of Yair Lapid. So I guess he didn't mean Yair Lapid, he meant Bennett and Smotrich.
Okay, but Rob, not everybody...
Druckmann did support Smotrich, we should say.
Right. Yes. But gentlemen, let's put that aside for that moment. We're going to continue the discussion when we're back, and we're going to be joined by someone who will speak for perhaps forming a government headed by Lapid. Stay with us, Michael Kleiner, Jeremy Saltan, and we'll be right back with more Talking Politics after the break. We'll be right back.